All right, hi everyone, and welcome to LeadUpTeach live here on YouTube with myself, Heidi Veal, and my co-host, Laura Gilchrist. And tonight we're so excited to be welcoming Glenn Robinson to the broadcast for LeadUpTeach. And I'm an assistant principal at a bilingual early childhood school in North Texas. And I'd like for Laura, go ahead and introduce yourself.
All right, hello LeadUpTeach. My name is Laura Gilchrist. I'm excited for tonight's chat, and I'm so happy that you've joined us here tonight live on YouTube Live and on Twitter with Liz, excuse me. I'm an instructional coach in Kansas City at Turner High School. This is my second year. I taught science and social studies to middle schoolers, and Glenn, you know about middle school, don't you?
Just a little.
For 20 years, I loved it. I started Twitter in November 2011, and I went to my first EdCamp 4 months later. And that is when kind of my life changed as an educator. So I'm really cued into what Glenn's talking about. Glenn took the idea of EdCamp, and I've been to like 25 EdCamps, and I organize, and I know the power of them to help people feel like leaders and learners. But he took this idea of EdCamps and he planted it in his school, and it's done some really powerful things. So I met Glenn at ISTE, and they had to pull me away from talking to him. So I'm like, oh, Lord, this is amazing. So Glenn, we're so excited you're here for our 12th episode of LeadUpTeach. If you will please go ahead and tell us about yourself.
Yes, my name is Glenn Robbins. I'm currently on Twitter at GlennR1809. At this current time, I am the middle school principal at the Northfield Community School, grades 5 through 8, which is in southern New Jersey outside of Atlantic City. Before that, I was at Egg Harbor Township as a teacher, as a social studies teacher, soccer coach, and as a vice principal. Just 2 weeks away, I will be the new superintendent of the Tabernacle Township School District, which I'm very much looking forward to getting started.
Wow. That's incredible, Glenn. What a wealth of experience you're bringing. And so we're so excited that and appreciate you for sharing it with our audience tonight. We want to give you definitely a special welcome along with everyone who's on Twitter following along with the LeadUpTeach hashtag, and engage there too while the chat is going on concurrently with the live conversation. And Elizabeth Bostwick is hosting that. So we're super excited that she's there too.
Tonight, on this exciting 12th episode of LeadUpTeach, we're going to hear about Glenn's mission to increase student empowerment with EdCamp Periods.
Great, and to get us started tonight, Glenn, would you please share about your journey that led you to be the inspiring educator that you are today?
Ooh, that's a great question. I think it has to do with how I was brought up. I came through the educational ranks in a small town, Pine Barrens of New Jersey. It's a very secure location that you cannot really build many houses, but it's also a farming community. And my father and mother were well drillers, so education to them wasn't always the strong suit, but they always pushed my brother and I to do the best that we could possibly do. So from that point on, I got involved with coaching and playing soccer, and I just got into education. I loved being, working on camps, and then living across the street from a vice principal inspired me as well. I had some great teachers, and from that point on, I said, I want to make a difference in the world, and I want to try to make the lives of children better. And, the most unique thing, and I'm just completely blessed right now, is I'm back in a town where I basically grew up in, starting on November 1st. So not many people had that opportunity, and I have a lot on my plate, but I'm so looking forward to seizing that.
That's awesome. You are incredibly passionate about inspiring learner-empowered mindsets for students. Please share with our audience the why behind your passion.
I think that we have to look at education differently. I think that Bernard Ralph says it best from Stanford School. A lot of us are second-rate replicas. And what we learn is from what our mentors have done and what our teachers have done. So my question is, how many teachers are teaching the way that they've seen their mentor teach them and or what they experienced growing up? And how many principals, do the same thing that their previous administrators did? And, that's a scary thought when you stop and think about that for a moment, because you might have gotten a mentor that was on the bottom of the list. It might not have been your best mentor in the whole school, but you might have got that mentor, and that's what you were stuck with, and that's what you build on. So for me, it's just looking at the school in a different lens, saying, what could we do to truly create a culture of creativity and innovation instead of the same boredom? When they walk into a building, does it say Navy ship blue walls on the side, or is it bright? Is it innovative? Is it inviting? When you cross that threshold moment, this is like, holy cow, I need to be here. Like, this is the place I want to come every day, instead of running out the door, out to the bus or out to your car to leave, excited to go home. So for me, it's about grabbing those kids' attention, grabbing the staff's attention, and creating that culture, like I said, of creator, of innovation, and maker, autonomy, and respect, ultimately, to the staff and to the kids. And I think that's something that we neglect to do a lot of times, especially from the administrative end. I've been a product of that, where you have to talk down to people, or you have to grade them or evaluate them, find little things that are wrong for no particular reason. So for me, it was about, what can we truly do to better the lives of kids? And for staff, I don't believe you can really empower someone, but I think you can basically establish a culture and a climate that they feel that coming out, and they empower themselves to take the rounds of their own education and move forward.
That is so inspiring, Glenn. I love hearing you share about this. I was listening into a podcast clip that you had done with, I believe it was Jethro Jones, and you talked about just changing the space of the school, the blue colors, the hallways. Why can't we just do some low-cost things to innovate and make the place more engaging and less old and traditional? I just love hearing that from you.
Yeah, thank you.
So this past spring, you had a very unusual, unique experience, the incredible opportunity to join Dr. Joe Mazza on the 2016 Penn State study trip to the Silicon Valley. What were some of your big ahas and takeaways from that memorable experience?
I was very fortunate to be asked to join on that trip with the UPenn group, with Dr. Mazza, and so many amazing educators. And the perspective was, what are we doing as educators in this wild west of technology that comes at us? You have to pick the right technology or right tools to help out in your schools. There's so many pitches out there. This is the next greatest thing that'll make every kid be productive, or this is the next greatest LMS, or this is the next greatest coding tool, whatever it may be. So for us, it was to really numerous schools, and to visit numerous ed tech companies, and to talk to their CEOs and see, what inspired them, what motivates them. Do they have mentors? What are they reading right now? What are they doing to move forward? And, for me, was constantly asking the question, when we went to some of the schools, we went to the alt school, we went to Nueva school, we went to another school called Brightworks, where kids are using power tools at like 2nd and 3rd grade. It's like a giant maker space. It was just amazing. But the thought process to me, and I think several others on that group, was, if we have some of the world's leading minds, such as Elon Musk and people from Google, starting their own schools, what is that saying to us who work in traditional public school? And what are we doing to move that needle forward, with all the realm of everything out there, to move our schools forward to something much more innovative, much more fun, and much more inquiry-based, to get the kids hands-on and the soft skills that they need, with just everyday thinking, instead of being forced. This is a worksheet, or this is a book, or this is the way it's always been done. This is where you have to do it. So, it was like I said, amazing trip, and just blessed to be on it.
I was on a trip out there, I think it was after you, with Getting Smart and Casey Great Schools. And the one thing I noticed, a couple things, was that you didn't have to have a lot of money to innovate. It's a mindset. And it was about involving the kids and the parents. It's that collaborative, shared vision towards something, not decided by somebody else and then done to kids.
Yeah, we follow up with that. Like a lot of the innovations we did, like we mentioned before, we changed our naming of our hallways to Idea Streets, and we removed all the bulletin boards, and we put in whiteboards, and that's $10 from Lowe's. We put up surfboard bars, for kids to hang out, and that was just, wood that we bought at Lowe's as well, another $10. I painted 15 classrooms this summer with Sherwin sketch pad, so kids can write all over the desk and so forth. But ultimately, we asked the kids what they wanted, what would be fun for them. We put a turtle tank in, we put a Lego board in the middle of the hallway as well on Idea Street. And, for the actual studios that we call them, we don't call them classrooms for vernacular reasons. You can just understand why. I went to the kids 2 years ago and said, what furniture do you want? Furniture that the kids picked out, so they felt truly like that it was their own experience and they were going to share it for years to come. So it really, they bought in tremendously. And like you mentioned, it doesn't take much or cost much to do so.
Kind of jumping still off of your trip there, how did the trip play into what you did tell us about your EdCamp. Tell us about, how you set that up at your school. Okay,
so EdCamp started roughly about a year ago. And I'll be honest, it started as a mistake. Here's what happened. I was fortunate enough to bring a gentleman to my school, Mr. Kevin Jarrett. A lot of you follow him. He's simply amazing. And we brought Kevin in and we revamped the old TIA, made it into a digital shop. And we're going to do a lot of human-centered design thinking and things and meaningful projects. So what we did was we had a certain time slot that these kids would be coming into the classes or his digital shop, but that would be like 20 kids. So what do we do with the remaining 80 plus kids, 90 plus kids that we had? During that time slot. And my team were Spanish teachers, and we are at my current school, two schools, one building. So we're on top of each other and we share. So my Spanish teachers were doing half their lunch period as well as half of teaching in third grade. So once again, what do you do with these kids? So as we're sitting there the first day, myself and the team, 8 teachers, we're looking around, talking about various ideas. What can we do differently? What can we make it meaningful? In years past, it's always been a rotation of an extra 40 minutes of social studies, an extra 40 minutes of English, an extra 40 minutes of science, all the main core subjects. And the kids were getting tired of it. And I'd even asked the kids before, and they said, no offense, Mr. Robbins, I just didn't want to see Mr. or Mrs. So-and-so anymore after seeing them for 80-minute periods already to begin with. That 120, 160 is just way too much. So luck to have it. I'm looking around the room as we're having this conversation with the teachers, and Kevin Jarrett just happened to have an EdCamp shirt because he happened to be one of the original founders of EdCamp. And he has this EdCamp shirt on, and I said, you know what? We're going to do that. And you would have thought that everybody's head just rolled off their shoulders and they thought I was all crazy, saying you want to give that much respect, that much autonomy, that much trust to these kids. And I said, yeah, what's the worst that could happen? So we went with it. And from that point on, it's starting evolving. The teachers had done EdCamp before inside the school. I do for faculty meetings. I really don't like faculty meetings. I like them to be more meaningful PD and more meaningful engagement for staff and respecting their time instead of me just sitting and them sitting and me giving to them. So we did EdCamps. Some of them have been to EdCamps, so they were familiar with the process. So, you think the tough part is talking to the kids and how do we do it? Well, the kids aren't going to understand. Let me tell you this right now. You tell the kids that you want to do an EdCamp and tell them exactly how it works. And if they don't like it, they can get up and leave, and they sign in for a Google sheet that we set up. So every teacher and everybody in the building for security reasons can see where these kids are. And then you start explaining it's your pick. You tell us what you want to learn. It starts to get even amazing. So we did for 4 days. We explained to the kids. We broke it down. We put up a Google Doc on every smartboard. And the teachers were told, write down every single idea a kid throws at you. And the funny thing was, guess what? Yeah, even Frank, the principal, was up there. Frank, the teacher, like you name it, the kids were throwing it up there. Video games, drop everything and read, app designing, cooking. Like I said, all these different subjects that you wouldn't think that you want to do or they'd want to do. And we built that and we used that as the foundation. It came and we put the teachers on a whiteboard and we said, Mrs. So-and-so's teaching app making. Next one's teaching, I think it was drop everything and read. Next one was we did stock market, stock market game. And we put the teachers' names underneath the kids and the kids rushed to the board at dismissal the day before And it was like a mosh pit. You would have thought you were at a heavy metal concert because every kid was like on top of each other trying to sign in. We were taking pictures to like solidify that Johnny did sign up for App Making 101 before somebody tried to erase it on him. So the kids were just super enthused to get in there. And then it just kept evolving from there.
So how was it set up? Was it per week? Like, was there a topic per week? And then were teachers so kids were with different teachers and different kids for each week?
Yeah, okay, it's a great question. So since Kevin's digital shop was 5 days, we needed to do it for 5 straight days. Now, this kind of works out for our advantage. And our advantage is the reason being is that they were only 40-minute classes. So, do something like app designing. You can't make an app in 40 minutes. Maybe you can. I'm not saying anybody can out there. But for what they want to do, they need time. And they also need time to think. Being rushed into it, I'm just going to design something. They have time to go home at night. They have time to talk to their friends. They have time to talk to their parents. So every single kid had that time. And there's other projects where they did like recycled art, and they were scavenging through recycling cans and trash cans, as the week, and then send it into a local agency for the trash pickup and so forth. That was during a contest. So they were doing all these things, but they had 5 straight days. Some schools can do it whatever they want, but for us, it worked. And the really cool part about this, and I think you ladies will appreciate this, is that I couldn't tell you, like you said, Laura, how many EdCamps and run so many EdCamps. And a lot of times I say to myself and to others, let's take the Twitter handles off the names or whatever, off the sessions, and just make it the session names. And that's what people go to instead of going to like the edu celebs. So the first week after it was over, we brought the kid back in and said, hey, what are your thoughts? What do you like and what are you not liking? And the kids said right off the bat, without any instruction from anybody, take the names away and take the room numbers away. We don't want to know who our teachers are, and we don't want to we want to be surprised. So it worked out for us because they signed up for it the day before. The next day, the EdCamp started at roughly 11:40, but right before 11:40 was their creative arts or specials, if you would call it. So by the time they come back upstairs, the teachers had put their names on the session board, so they knew where they were going then. From there, it continued to flourish, and every week on the 5th day, they would write down, the teachers would pick new sessions and put it on the board again, and the kids would go right out there and sign up. So it got to a point where it was awesome at first, and then it just got way too scary, like for the mosh pitting of getting to the board. So we did clipboard from there. I know Jethro was talking about an app with me that I'm definitely going to move forward with, especially as I move toward Tabernacle. But we were looking at different ways to give it more equality to every kid. And one of the cool things I thought was one of the girls was upset the second week that she did not get into art, something along the lines of art that the teacher had put down. And she was upset she didn't get in there in time to sign up. And I said, look, you're going to make this the way you want to make it, or you can get up and go someplace else. And don't you know, she took it in a whole new world to herself, and she made that particular class all art. And from that part on, like all she was doing was art. And she evolved from like one of the biggest introverts that we had to one of our leaders that was presenting at all these different state functions that we had last year. So the beauty of it is, out of all these kids, our most at-risk kids were the ones that flourished the most. The ones that hated school were flourishing because they weren't playing school anymore. And we had some kid that had to adjust, that, hey, please tell me what page to open up to. Please tell me what worksheet to do. That was all new to them, saying, no, you tell us and you show us how you're going to evaluate yourself. So, they did more homework in that particular period than any other period. And the crazy part is it's ungraded. It was ungraded. So these kids were putting it on themselves to do all this amazing stuff because they knew they were sharing it with the world. They knew they were going to put it on YouTube, whether it was the Northfield channel or whether it was their own YouTube channel, because every kid pretty much has a YouTube channel nowadays, and they were blasting it out. So they felt so confident in their work because they knew, like I used to do, I'll admit it, I knew where the grade cutoff was. I knew I had to get an 80 in order to get a certain grade in my class to get by, or they were just so beaten down. These kids were working towards everybody and anybody to hear their message. And that was the amazing thing, and to see that. And then the transparency started to happen between the teachers. When you asked the kids with all the visits we had last year, what was one of the favorite things that you enjoyed about this period, besides being ungraded, no pressure, which is huge for a young child in today's age, with all this traumatic stress that they have on them, was that they love seeing the teachers struggle. And what I mean by that is the teachers didn't know how to design an app, didn't know how to make video games, but I had teachers that were willing to put themselves out there. One was Miss Jor. She took the bull by the horns. She reached out to a woman down in Texas, Maggie, who I tweet all the time with, and basically said, here's how I did it through the Verizon app challenge that she had won, and helped Melissa Jor through the process. And then she went to the kids and said, here you go. The kids saw the teachers struggling, and vice versa. And they got to meet different teachers and different sets of eyes. And the teachers got to see how the kids worked in a completely different way than they might have ever have learned about the kid. They learned different passions. They learned different dislikes and likes. They learned about the kid as a kid and as a whole child to their advantage, because as it progressed, you couldn't tell when EdCamp period was anymore, because the teachers felt more empowered or able to take risk, which I constantly push on them. Take risk, do something different, do something innovative. I would never harm you for that in any way. But if I walk in and you're doing a typical PowerPoint, reading word for word, like Ben Stein, then yeah, I'm going to probably write you up. But if you're doing something innovative and what you've learned from the kids, it just evolved into something so much more amazing than we ever expected. That's the God's honest truth. That was just like, whoa, like we got scared at times because it was going too fast and too amazing. Like we were worried for like the ceiling to the floor to just fall out on us.
You hacked the system. Like I get so frustrated with the time factor of being, in a class for so many minutes and then you move on and there's no flow. And you hacked that with 1 hour. So the kids and the teachers were flowing, ideas were flowing, teachers were mixing, and you didn't have to restructure the entire school. You didn't have to restructure everything. You just did this 1 hour. And the one thing I noticed is, I know from experience, a lot of schools try to do an advocacy hour or, advisory. And I've seen this multiple schools that it almost never works because it's like you said, it's another class. It's just another piece of the same old. So I'm just obsessed with this. Is this, yeah. And I just wish I could see a video of the kids swarming the board.
You know what? We do have one on the, if you Google it or just go to YouTube and you type in NCMS Thunderbirds, Northfield Community Middle School, NCMS Thunderbirds, it's a space between that. Or you can put in NCMS EdCamp and it should come right up. And yes, you will see the kids they created the video. They gave me a 10-second, maybe 20-second cameo that I was allowed to have, but the rest of it was 8th graders from last year to put the video together. So they had one from behind the board. It was a portable board, a camera where you can see the girl, like, the things pushing against her. You can see the swarm happening. So yeah, just check that out on YouTube, NCMS EdCamp or NCMS Thunderbirds, and it'll be right there. And it's simply amazing to see.
Glenn, I'm totally obsessed with this idea, completely. Tell me, how long did this run? How many weeks did you do this?
All year, every day.
From the start of the year.
For 40 minutes a day.
Yep, 40 minutes a day. But like I said, the sessions are five straight days,
right.
And then they have a new session. And we did it all year long. And I give the utmost my staff and to the families and to the kids that bought onto it. Like I said, this happened by error. This happened by sheer coincidence that Kevin Jarrett just happened to have an EdCamp shirt on. And I said, let's do it.
And the staff shirt.
yeah. And cheers to all my staff that believed in it and supported that and moved forward with that. And cheers to the kids, because of the fact that we said, hey, we trust you, like we always have with all these crazy other innovative things we were doing. But now we're going to tell you, you tell us what you want to learn. And it was funny because one of the tours we had last year, they said, does anybody ever get in trouble in this period? And the kid turns around, looks at him and goes, why? Why would we get in trouble? We want to be here. So, for them, they felt no stress by any grades in there. And one of the things we incorporated into the EdCamp period during that time is also a maintenance period. So you could call it a study hall, you could call it a makeup time, whatever you want to call it. The kids wanted to call it maintenance. So we stuck with it. Basically, a teacher can put a kid in there if he or she's missing test or quiz, whatever it may be, or work on a project. And that could be for 5 days or it could be for 20 minutes. But what we were finding as the year progressed, certain kids were purposely putting themselves in there every once in a while just to have time because they knew they had soccer after school. Then they had their little brother's soccer or little sister's gymnastics, and then they weren't getting home till 8 or 9 o'clock at night. So what does that tell you when a kid just puts himself into there on purpose and works on homework or works on a project or works on something to do like a week later because they're taking pure ownership of their learning, and they don't feel it's forced on them. And like we always have, like why we always ask kids we always say we have student voice in the building, so
this is the
who are you truly asking?
Yeah, this is the ultimate example. And hearing what you said too also about how it flowed over into the other official content classes of the day, and what you just explained about the maintenance period, I think, we'd be crazy not to try something like this in our own schools. And yes, cheers to the EdCamp shirt.
I will say this, and for any administrators out there, you really have to take a step back and believe in your staff and believe in your kids. And I know that's hard for some people. I'm usually the odd person when I walk into a room of administrators because we do things a little bit differently. But we're proud of that, and we're proud of
the alien look.
Yeah, and that's fine.
Not a bad thing.
We'll be the renegade. That's fine. But look what it does in return. The discipline numbers went down. The academics went up. My biggest point to all this is you cannot just have pockets of greatness in your building. You have to have a culture and a climate as a whole. Because if you don't, that's like many schools that put together a makerspace and it fails, or put this together, an innovation period, and it's only in that one teacher's room. It needs to be across the entire school. That school has to have a common mission or a common theme, or as we call it, a common manifesto. It was designing to be life ready. Giving these kids to be soft skills. Like we always talk about future ready, we talk about college and career readiness, but we don't know what these kids are going to do. And we said, why are we still saying 21st century, 16 years in the 21st century? What are we doing? What are we preparing these kids for? What is college career going to be 5 years from now? So if these kids want to learn how to do 3D design and code, in 10, 15 years from now, they'll be designing DNA and they'll be designing artificial intelligence during these type of periods, or maybe even next year. I don't know, but we have to give them a voice and say, it's just, like I said, it's just giving every teacher the respect and building that climate and saying, it's okay to try something new. It's okay to be innovative in your classrooms. You support your teachers when they're trying something or trying to be original. It's one of the greatest things I loved about Adam Grant's book about the originals, was that you have to support and nurture everybody to build, to do something great. You can't just say, do it and expect results, and that takes time to build that culture. That takes time to build that climate. If I'd done this.
Sorry. How did you write the manifesto? Was that a whole staff?
Yeah, we were fortunate. When Kevin came upstairs, I call him upstairs because he literally came from the elementary upstairs to middle school. We sat down together and we said we need to bring in David Jakes. And David Jakes is a consultant who I rave about. Some people say I equate him to as an all higher being. But he came in and sat down with Kevin and myself, a bunch of stakeholders, a bunch of teachers, an administrative team, board members, outside community members. And we started working on it for Kevin's class. Shop, and that's what the Life Ready is mainly in Kevin's shop. But what happened was teachers felt that energy and it started to flow all across the entire building. So it wasn't just in that particular shop anymore, but that's like our central hub, and I'm very proud of that hub for what all they do in there. But once again, it exposes everybody. So every kid gets to go in that shop, every teacher gets to go in that shop. They can work together with him. He's an amazing resource and feels trusted and respected. And I'm talking about teachers here, trusted and respected by me to say, let's try something different. Because that's not always the case when it comes to, Darth Vader and the light side. It's just, why can't we work together? And one of the biggest things I give a major shout out to my current union president before I go to my school, Kristen Pollack. I meet with her every single day when I can to talk about what's going on in the building together as a team, to do something special for the kids in the community.
I have to ask one more thing. So basically your manifesto and your EdCamp hour, would you say that those helped unify the school and change the culture? Were those the two biggest drivers? Because that's what schools are looking for. How can we change the whole culture? You know, not just in, like you said, those pockets.
Yeah, I think, well, let's put it this way. This was a fast thing all last summer. And I want to say in July, Kevin, myself, and mainly my IT department guy, Alain Pamatep, and my general superintendent at the time, Bob Gargiulo, we did a lot of the work ourselves inside that room. So the teachers that were coming in were starting to see, like, hey, these guys are really devoted to the school. They're really devoted to the kids. You know, they're putting in the time. And people came in and talked, and they saw us, and we were blogging and posting about it. And then when David was there, I said, you know, I want to do something with my hallways. I want to do something different. And he didn't tell me exactly what to do, but we pitched around a few ideas. And from that point on, it just exploded. So when we had all the hallways, like I said, with bicycles and turtles and, you know, Lego boards and all that, that the kids, once again, and the staff were like, this looks like a Silicon Valley instead of, like, you know, a traditional school. And the manifesto pushed that. But the EdCamp period, on top of all that, and we even had an LMS for Kevin designed for a Black Mesa, which the kids can do coding and 3D design and all that personalized learning. The EdCamp period blew everything out of the water. I mean, like, it totally pushed us to a whole nother level, because now you had kids that were not only iterating and designing in a particular shop, now you had them iterating and designing in different classes that they were leading. And they had that design thinking mentality of iteration, and it was everywhere.
And I heard you say leadership. Would you say the kids saw themselves as leaders after this EdCamp experience?
Oh, extreme. You know, like I said, we did a video several weeks into it, and Naomi gave me 10 to 15 seconds of cameo. You know, nice. We're very fortunate. We're going to DC in just a couple of days. Northfield Middle School was the first school ever in New Jersey to be awarded the Student Voice Award through SETDA. And for those who know, SETDA is the national organization of every Department of Ed technology department. Wow. You know, so these kids, for student voice, you know, like I said, they're middle school, full opportunity to show what they could do. And they are doing things that people never even imagined.
Bravo. Ugh.
I know, bravo. We just want to, like, give you a standing LeadUpTeach ovation. And I love how you're saying that it's the whole thing of, if we can do this, if you can do this with middle schoolers, we can do this with anybody. You know, this is possible anywhere. It really is. Well, I was going to ask you next about what's a hallmark practice that sets you apart as a digital leading principal. You were recognized this year as the NASSP National Digital Principal of the Year, which is a tremendous honor. But I feel like everything you've just told us really explains that. Is there anything else you'd like to add to that or share about your journey?
You know, like I said, my journey's been unique, and it's just working with amazing people. I've always been as good as the people around me. You know, people say all the time, I say I have wacky, crazy ideas, and they actually believe in it and follow through. And, you know, because they know what we're trying to do, which is to better the lives of kids. And, you know, I'm fortunate to be named in such a distinguished class, especially this year with Bobby Dodd and Winston Sakurai, you know, and all these amazing leaders. But there are so many outstanding leaders out there. And one of the biggest ways that I really push forward was all the stuff that I found on Twitter. Stations and these PLNs that I developed, they're the ones that helped me push forward. And I said, you know what? I'm going to try their idea, put it on my spin, because it's on my school. Not, you know, you can't compare apples and oranges. And let's see what happens. I think all the education community that's on Twitter, you ladies that are on there as well, and everybody else, and my staff and my kids, for simply believing and trying to do what's best for kids to move education forward in 2016. You know, so my goal is to push people outside that box and make them stay outside that box. You know, and when you hire people, you hire leaders. You don't hire soldiers. You make those people better all around us. And I tell people all the time, you know, with the digital principal award I got last year, the biggest reason why I got it is because of the kids. They're the ones that taught me so many different things. They're the ones that teach me every single day. They're the ones when I say, hey, I can't do this, I ask one of my 5th graders to come show me, you know, and now I even have my 4-year-old son. He can probably work the iPhone better than I can, you know, so it's a game of being together. And I thank everyone for that, because too many times we get competitive against what that school's doing down the street or what that teacher's doing. And my ultimate philosophy is we're in this together if we're really going to make a difference in children's lives.
Right on.
All right, so as we wrap up, would you share what's coming up for you in the future and what our listeners can do to connect with you?
Okay, I'll be in Washington, D.C. for the SETDA Award for the kids who are presenting on this Monday, which I'm very much looking forward to. They get to speak in front of 250 people, I believe, from all across the country. And then a week later, on Saturday the 22nd, I'm flying out to Alaska to meet with the Alaska's Principals Conference, which I'm super excited to have that opportunity for them to bring me out there. And then I get to come home, be with my family for a few days, and then start my new adventure at Tabernacle. And I am very much, like I said, looking forward to being in the town that my grandparents are from, my aunts and uncles are from. I have a lot of friends and family, and giving back to them and truly trying to put this place on a map like none other, and building off of my experiences. For those that want to find me, I'm Glenn R1809 at Twitter. You can find me at Glenn Robbins on Facebook, and Voxer is also Glenn R1809 or G Robbins. So my biggest thing to all of you is just reach out to me and say hello. I have no problem talking to anybody.
What's your blog?
It is Connected Lead Learner, which is Blogger, and then I also have another one I just started up recently. It's on Medium, and if you type in Glenn Robbins or Glenn R1809, that's where my latest blogs have been. It's on Medium.
Awesome. Well, and Glenn, we just have to thank you so much. We took a stab in the dark and invited you to come, just hoping that you would entertain our invitation, and we appreciate it. I feel like I've learned so much tonight that I want to go back and rewatch this episode again and again. Because I just really think about how can I implement this in where I am and where with the students that I serve every day. We can't thank you enough. I know our audience loved hearing your ideas, and I also want to appreciate our amazing audience who are watching us live or who will watch us in the future if it's available. It's going to be available on YouTube for future watching.
Yes, thank you so much for coming here. I've marveled ever since I met you and learned. I read a little bit about it, but then when you told me about it, your passion comes through, and it's just an easy. It's not difficult. It doesn't cost money. It empowers kids and teachers, and it empowers them to be learners and leaders, and they don't feel that pressure. That really hit me big, that they don't feel that pressure, and then they can also just think outside the box. They never get to do that, and they get to actually lead. Actually do things and have agency. So thank you for coming, and I can't wait to connect with you further. We will share out tonight's LeadUpTeach on the hashtag LeadUpTeach.
Awesome.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Glenn. Before we sign off, we're just excited to announce the date and time of our next LeadUpTeach episode. We want everyone to go ahead and mark your calendar for episode 13. It's going to air on October 13th at 7:30 Central Eastern Time. And we look forward to welcoming, you know what, I've got the wrong date on there. I just realized. I'm so sorry. I'm going. But our next guest is going to be Don Wettrick, the founder and CEO of Startup Ed and the author of Pure Genius, to discuss building a culture of innovation. I think his topic is going to dovetail perfectly, Glenn, with your topic tonight. We're definitely inspired. Don's
an outstanding individual. You'll very much enjoy talking with him. He's an outstanding man.
He did a Periscope one time for MoEd Chat, and Periscope Day was phenomenal. It was a long time. It was right after Periscope came out, so it was it was innovative. It was awesome.
That he is.
Between now and our next episode, we encourage you to follow those you connected with tonight on Twitter and on YouTube, and tweet using the LeadUpTeach hashtag. We are signing off. Good night, and lead on and lead up. Bye.